I wanted to thank you guys for coming in, find out a little bit about this ITIN program. As you guys know, ITIN is really big. I mean, there are some places that try to offer it, but the fact is it takes so long. And with this program, it takes a lot less time than what it has in the past with the ITIN. So it's a really kind of a really cool deal. You're gonna like. It's another one of our programs that we're offering, again, to try to get you guys more business. So keep that in mind. It's a better way to do things as much as we can. I know at first it might seem somewhat complicated, but it really is not. It's really not that bad. So we really want you to take a look at it, think about what you're going to do. Dr. Hank is going to explain the details, and then I'll be around for any questions that you may have. So Dr. Hank, take it away.
All right, great. Good morning. Thank you for coming. It's just awesome that this is now our third program that we have for you to build your business. And so I just wanted to review the other programs initially, just so that you knew, wow, here's some opportunities that I can have. So our first program that we've launched within the last couple of months is companies, schools, and churches. And what this basically does is we have teamed up with a mortgage lender, an actual lender, not a broker, Remen, a real estate mortgage network, and we've teamed up with them, and we've teamed up with Liberty Mutual. And all together that, right now, like, how do you get into a company that you're a real estate agent, but what special thing do you have to bring to a company or to a school or to association or to a nonprofit that, typically we say, well, I'm like every other real estate agent, right? Well, now you're going to set yourself different, and you're going to get lots of numbers. You can get lots of people. We're working right now on $2 million deals. And when I say $1 million deals, the agent will earn $1 million. Yesterday, I was working with one of our agents where they identified they could potentially make $1.2 million on a couple companies that they know that they could get into, because, and basically here's how it works, is that if you know any company, any school, any church, any association, and you know like an HR director, an executive, it can be any size. Technically, it should be 50 employees or 50 members. But just last week, we are now a preferred vendor with the Florida State College, Florida State alumni here in Dallas-Fort Worth. They have 3,300 members. Well, you would never be able to get into those 3,300 members, but we're now in there. So I'm telling you, every one of you how many of you have closed some business in the last 2 months? Let me see a raise of hands. Closed the business in the last 2 months. Every one of those people had a job. And so they work for a company. And I'm telling you that they can be a prospect for you. And so I want you to be really starting to get creative now. I'm thinking about, wow, before they weren't, I couldn't just go to any company, but now I can go to these people and say, hey, for your company, I have a great deal. And what that deal is it's 20% off real estate commissions, your real estate commissions, but because you're going to get way more volume on this, that you're going to get lots more volume, and that's why we were talking literally with making that one person potentially being able to make $1 million personal income. You also get $450 off your closing costs. So closing costs are $450 off. This had to be approved by the state of Texas in order for this lender, because they're so regulated, for this lender to do it. Because we have this group program, they're able to provide $450 off closing costs. And then we have an additional 10% or more, but Liberty Mutual, because of Liberty Mutual, that for legal purposes they can't say that, but off your home insurance. And so those programs this program here is available to you, and I'm telling you, every one of you have an opportunity in order to take advantage of that with a company that you know, with an association you know. So think about that, because they're all sitting right with you. I'll present along with you. We have all the PowerPoint, the materials. We have the marketing plan for them on how to easily market this to their employees or their members. So it's a very special program that, that we literally will help you sell it, okay? And then I have one agent that went to a company and they have 2,000 employees that are moving their headquarters. And they're moving at about 45 miles away from one side of Dallas to the other. And a lot of these employees want to move their house because they don't want to drive in Dallas traffic, okay, from A to B. This 45 miles away, which is what, an hour, hour and a half, more of travel for them. And so he's looking at it and he said, I don't think I can do all these closings. And I said, well, you make 50% on your commission, split your commission, and that's $1,250 you make per home on average on a $150,000 home. And he has 100 people, so $1,250. He doesn't do anything. This agent doesn't do anything because what he did is he got this company, and now he's going to use other agents and say, hey, I'll pay you $1,250, but there's 100 of them. Well, when you do 100 of them, it's $125,000. And so if you haven't made a six-figure income, here's a quick way to make a six-figure income. So anyways, think about that. And I can tell you're thinking about that. You're thinking about that. That's good. So that's one program. And basically what it is, it's the genius of Paul said, listen, I want to help our agents in order to grow their business. What programs can we do? And so we've been working with, like this program, we've been working on for 6 months to develop it into what it has become now. That we have another program, and so we have the, with the ITIN, the next program, and what this meeting is about ITIN. And so Paul and I have been working on this for over 2 years. We have been working to try to find an investor with about $100 million because we know that with all our agents, that there's at least 1,000 ITIN holders that are in Dallas-Fort Worth that would love to have home ownership, the American dream, but they can't because they don't have a social security number, because NACA, like Tony does a real good job with NACA, but it takes a long time, and that, then you have a seller now wanting to wait a couple months or whatever. And so, well, we have a program now. It took us 2 years in order to find, but we have an investor with $100 million that is willing to do the following. And so here's how this program works. We're right now talking about the ITIN program, and we have a similar program called Higher End Homes, or Income, actually, Higher End Income Homes, Lower Credit. And so just know that we have this program. So people that that have a good income but have bad credit, we also have a program for them, and it's very similar to this ITIN program. So I want you to be thinking about, this is for ITIN holders from $70,000 to about $120,000, their homes, okay? To $120,000. This program on a higher end income, lower end credit is, this is from $120,000 to as much as you want. We have one agent right now working on this one that has a nurse. She earns over $100,000. She's been paying her client has been paying $2,300 of rent every month because she has bad credit over a divorce. And so think how many people, so she wants to buy a $400,000 home, and so she's going through this program of higher end income, lower end credit. So just know that the reason why I share this with you is because this ITIN program is very similar to this. So don't only think about ITIN, but think of your clients that don't have very good credit. Okay, so people without very good credit, as well as ITIN, but we're going to focus mainly on ITIN here. So home $70,000 to about $120,000, and here basically is how it's going to work. That that I'm going to give you a handout afterwards to go through all the steps, but here's an overview of the steps on how to do it. Number one is that you have a client, an ITIN client, and you make sure you go to MLS, and I'll show you how to do this, but you pre-qualify them. So what that is going to be is you're going to go to MLS and you're going to go to, I think it's Finance Manager. And again, we're going to go through all the details on that. But what it's going to do is it's going to tell you how much does this person, how much of a home can they buy. Okay, so it'll take in their income, if they have long-term debt, et cetera, just some standard things. So you understand how much. So let's say this plugs in, and let's say that it qualifies, the person qualifies for $100,000. Okay, and this probably takes 5 minutes of your time to do this MLS. You've got to get the information from the customer, but once you get that it takes about 5 minutes to find out about how much that they qualify for. Step two is go find a home. So, in other words, these people can have a home of their choice that's around, in this example, around $100,000. Okay? So it's not like our investor has homes and they rebuilt, upgraded it, remodeled it, redid it, that, and then they're selling it at a higher price. No, this is, you pick the home, and then they pick a home, and then you actually text the investor the address. The investor will take a look at it, make sure it's not into, like, there's certain qualifications they have, if it's a bad neighborhood, for example, that, really, really bad neighborhood with a lot of crime, whatever, they're not going to do certain areas. But for the most part, they're going to do, like, basically anything, in Garland, they're going to do. So they're going to do, basically, the investor's going to look at the address, and they're going to run some numbers and see whether or not that would work. The investor then is going to find out more about your buyer, but basically how it will work is, assuming your buyer qualifies then and you've verified all this information, they do have income, et cetera, that, but they don't have a Social Security number, right, that they have an ITIN number, that then in about 2 weeks that you will be able to buy the home with 2 closings in the same day. It's the same day. And those 2 closings are that the investor is going to buy the home from the person selling the home, okay? And there's 3 points in that. And the seller always pays, and so the seller's going to pay you 3 points, and you get to keep 2 points, okay, on that transaction. It's all going to be on the same day. Because you, in essence, brought the buyer. We got you the buyer, okay? The buyer is the investor for the first transaction. The investor buys the home, same day, same hour, same table you're sitting at. They turn around, and God bless you. And the buyer, your buyer now, buys from the investor. Okay? Now, another 3 points are there, and our investor will pay you 2 points. So on this transaction, there's 2 transactions, but really there's one, right? You got one buyer and you're buying one house, and you get paid 4 points. Questions?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I want to back up a little bit.
Yeah.
So, the investor's going to decide the area. They're also going to decide the condition of the property. I mean, can the buyer decide to buy a good foreclosure that's out there?
Yes. They can.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. We're in the middle of one right now.
Okay. And let's say us as a realtor, do we write the offer on the buyer's name, or do we submit the offer, or do we submit the offer at all, period? Or does the investor have their own real estate company that they submit the offer? Because as you know, in today's market, a good house, they're gone like this.
Right. Right. And that's why we need to move quickly, you bet. And And Paul's gonna just get mic'd up here so he can.
Okay, on a deal like that, basically, we, the agents, are writing both offers. The first one to acquire the property for the investor, and then the second one for our buyer to buy from the investor.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
so basically we are representing, let's say that I'm doing an offer, okay? I have a client, so the first offer is gonna go, we're representing basically the investor first, right?
Correct.
Because
Right.
he's gonna be LA Bucks or whoever it is.
Right.
So we're writing an offer on that,
Yeah.
and then we're gonna acquire, and then we're gonna simultaneously another offer
Yep.
based on the markup to our client.
Right. Right. And so it's gonna be all done in one time though.
But let's just, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure like as a realtor, you wanna think, okay, earnest money, who's gonna put the earnest money? The buyer is?
Yep. So.
Or the investor?
The investor, who's the buyer?
So when the investor says yes to this, and so this is like right away, okay? We're not talking much time. He's gonna look this up. He's gonna then, we're gonna take your buyer to get pre-qualified with a mortgage company, okay? It's called Open Door Mortgage, and you're gonna have all these names and everything on how to do it. That they're gonna get pre-qualified and they're gonna say, yes, this is the house, this is how much it's gonna be, because they will have negotiated the price for this house, okay? So let's say that this price,
When you mean negotiate?
yep,
They negotiate it?
You bet.
Or they tell me, you know what, Tony, submit this offer for this house.
They're telling you
Yeah.
basically what it is, but, you know, they're
But your
gonna.
earnest money,
so-
once, let's say the seller says, yes, I wanna accept
we'll
the
get
offer.
to that. We'll get to that in one second, but let me just share with you that so in this step here, with once they get the address, that they negotiate with you, okay? And this is selling for $100,000, but our investor comes in and said, listen, we're paying cash, man, and so we want a deal, and you'll be out of your house in 2 weeks. Nobody can do it that fast, okay? So because of that, we want to buy it for $90,000. And so far, our experience with the few deals that we've done, they're getting discounts on these houses. Even though most houses that are listed, you can't get a discount on, and they're even going over. Because they're paying cash, and they can do it in 2 weeks, they're able to get it. So the investor then says, we're going to sell this for $100,000, which in this example is the original price of what the house was selling for anyways. And so your buyer says, yes, I'm willing to do that, okay? And I'm willing to go to close. So at that point, that they're going to put down 10%. So part of this, as far as what does your buyer need before you start anything, you find out that they have the money. In this case, they need $10,000. Okay, so they need it's 10% down. They need 10% down. So that, in this example, $10,000. Okay? Just give me, let me make sure that we're rolling. So as we go, so once that deal is done, where the money comes from is your buyer pays that 10% down, okay? And then they also pay because they're going to run credit and everything now, because it kind of is like a regular mortgage then, as far as, and that cost is for the mortgage. And again, you're going to have a handout on all of that detail. But the application fee is $350. And there's going to be a total of closing costs of $1,557. That at closing, that they'll need, that 10% they're going to pay right away. At closing, they need to pay the $350, and at closing they pay the $1,557. Okay? Now, questions? Yes.
Okay, how long is going to take the investor analysis?
Yeah, pretty quick.
Like day? 24 hours?
Probably less than 24 hours. Our experience has been, our agent has text to our investor the address, and he's usually back to you in a couple hours. Okay. There have been a couple exceptions to that, but pretty much you can expect that within 24 hours he should get back to you. If he doesn't, you get to me, because I had one. Did someone contact me about that they contacted the investor. They were going to be here today. That someone contacted me and said, "Hey, I contacted the investor." I immediately said, "LaDale, call the investor. Call this agent," and he called right away. So he's very responsive. Very responsive. Yes.
Okay, there's several questions. But
Sure,
the
great.
first one is, what about rep agreements? Let's say we need to sign a rep agreement with the seller, with the buyer who's going to be first the investor, because we're actually representing them, and so that would be one. Then an intermediary, right? Because we're going to be representing both the seller and the buyer in the second transaction.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Correct.
And then, of course, another buyer rep agreement. But about the advertised percentage, let's say that we are representing the investor in the first transaction and there is an advertised commission of 3%. What about the other 1%? Because we're going to get paid 2%. Who's going to get the other 1%?
Ultima's getting 1%.
Okay, so we need to kind of do a CDA, disclose.
Yes,
that
on the
1%
CDA.
will be-
Well, yeah, once
Going
again, yeah, on
to-
the CDA, that's how
Same
we
thing
like
will
it.
happen in the second transaction.
Correct.
Is that
Correct. Yes. Correct.
Okay.
You got it. Very good.
So I think that's
Okay.
Okay, I have
good.
another question
Yeah.
that you haven't answered.
Yeah.
And on the first transaction, usually what we, let's say we basically represent an investor to buy this property and not us,
Right.
Okay. Are they gonna give us the earnest money right up front? Because we have to put earnest money to buy a property.
No, the buyer, the first buyer is going to put the money, right?
Well, the first buyer is the investor that is gonna buy the
Buy the
property.
They're going to pay cash. They're going to
But
pay
we
cash.
need, but we need earnest money as well. We need earnest money.
Right, the earnest money will be by the buyer,
Exactly.
because we need the buyer to be committed to do this, because you guys know, they say they want a house, and then all of a sudden they don't want it,
Okay.
and we have to
So
buy it
that
on
was my
it.
question.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically it's gonna be, okay.
Yeah.
It comes
Yeah.
from our buyer.
And
Okay,
then
so
option
someone
period
from
as
buyer
well,
to-
and then home inspections, our buyers, we go to the home inspection with
Let-
that buyer, he just,
Let me help you with that. Home inspection. That because we've been through, because we've been doing live deals, and we've been, and that's why we're pretty familiar on where we are. So the investor does a home inspection, but it's not an official home inspection. They send somebody out there just to look at it, make sure it's okay, it's there, whatever, and the water's working, whatever. But they're not doing a full, complete home inspection, okay? And they're not going to require your buyer to do a complete home inspection. If you want your buyer to do a home inspection, and as long as they can do it quick, because this is going to be in 2 weeks, great. They won't need title insurance even. But you as agents have a responsibility to say you should have title insurance, but the investor just bought title insurance, so they're saying, I don't care if you have title insurance or not. So it's a way that they could actually save money and probably be protected, because see, ultimately the mortgage holder, who's now the investor, already has the entitled insurance, had to pay it from the buyer originally.
Okay,
Yes.
question in respect to the home inspection.
Yeah.
Okay, let's say that client number 2, our actual buyer.
Yeah. Right.
He wants to do an inspection on the property
whichever
because.
company.
Go for it.
Okay, what about the repairs? Because buyer number 1, the investor already bought it. Like
No,
you
no,
said-
no,
No, no, it's under contract, it's under contract.
So
It's
the,
under
it's
contract.
also
under-
on the contract.
Yeah,
okay,
it's
I
under
see.
contract, it's
So
under
we can
contract.
ask for
Yeah.
repairs and stuff like that.
It's to
Okay.
negotiate
And
the
let me
sales
make,
price.
and let me make the point that they prefer, like any good ITIN lender, they want the property to be in
Oh,
good
yeah,
shape.
exactly.
They don't want it to be crap, and we don't want it to be crap, because
No.
we don't want them coming back to us, and they're not
Yeah.
having money.
Yeah. This is not your redneck investor that rips off ITIN holders. That's one of the reasons why it took us 2 years, is because we were having investors they didn't care what condition it was, and then they would increase the price, just dramatically. I mean, it was a ripoff to our people, if you will, the Hispanic community, and that's why we didn't do it. This investor is different in that they're being really fair here, and that they're saying, hey, they're still making money on this, but like in this example, hey, if they can get off, that they're just going to go up 10%, not 10% on what the list price was, for example. So they're really, they're really working with us. They originally came to us and said, oh, we'll just do 10% on list. We said, no, we don't want that. And so because they agreed to that, one of the reasons why we started doing business with them. Yes.
Do HUD homes qualify for this?
No.
No, you can get in trouble. You can go in.
Yeah,
you can
because
go- you
Okay.
get
although
API right away.
although the end user will be the owner occupant, the investor cannot buy the HUD home, so it wouldn't work.
An investor can't buy a HUD?
They can in the second phase.
Well, once it's in the 30 days, past the 30 days,
Yeah.
then yes, that's no
Yeah.
big deal.
Yeah.
But you know, I'd rather just keep it like the way, like the other programs with the ITIN, no HUD and no
No getting
foreclosure,
trouble.
just
Yeah.
regular sale.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. We've
Make it
already
simple.
been through a HUD,
Yeah.
and that you know was no, we can't do it. So so HUD is not. Yeah, good. Yes.
Talked about title insurance. I
Yeah.
understand it. At least I know I do.
Yeah.
Survey. If we have an existing survey, great. But if we don't have an existing survey, of course we're gonna negotiate. But if we you know if we're gonna pay cash and we know we're gonna try to get the house to the less price,
Yeah.
definitely you know the seller's not gonna pay for a survey and still let it go at night. You know, definitely we
Right.
can try to submit it.
Right.
But I guess I'll definitely recommend my buyer to get a survey. I mean,
Yeah,
that's just me,
yeah,
period.
yeah.
What will be the interest rate on, for the 18?
Pardon me.
The
Interest rate. Interest rate. Very good. So you know, basically 10% down, 7% interest rate. Now, this could vary if they really have bad credit, because they're going to run credit, not the standard credit on the person, okay? But they're going to see, hey, have you paid your electric bill? You know, let's take a look at your bank statements. You know, some of the typical things that are going to happen is this is real money, this investor's coming with real money, and so they need to make sure that, you know, it's good. Now, they could go as high as 10%, or they just won't do the deal. What we've seen so far is everybody's at 7%, okay, that you bring, you know, yeah. So you'll pretty much be at 7%. Now, this is another amazing thing that typically the ITIN history has been whatever the current interest rate is, double it, and that's what ITINs pay, okay? So right now we're at about 4%, which means the typical ITIN rate would be 8%. But still banks are doing what, 10, 12%, you know, whatever out there. Well, this is 7%. So it's just another thing on, wow, this is a very reasonable for this opportunity where you can't get an ITIN, that it's a reasonable rate, 7% rate, yes.
Okay, so the first contract is gonna be a normal contract one, and the second one is gonna be a seller financed contract, am I correct also?
Yes, technically that's correct. Yes, because it's the seller, the owner, that's
So
that's financing.
1 to 4 and seller finance
Correct.
agreement, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Good question. Escrow. They want to have,
Doesn't say.
and doesn't it say?
Well, they are going to escrow.
Yeah, here it is.
So
Here it is.
basically-
2 months, 2 months, 2 months tax. That 14 months homeowners insurance. And then again, as far as application fee is going to be $350. The total closing cost is going to be, it doesn't matter how much the house is a flat fee. They pay an attorney at the mortgage company basically to, you know, kind of do all this stuff. And then your 10%. So basically you're looking at this as the total amount of money, cash that you need down.
What's the 350 for?
Application fee. Yeah. And that's actually with open door mortgage, and again, you're going to be given that. So let's see if we went through. I think any other questions before we go through the actual detail of doing it, Craig?
The 10% down, does that have to be seasoned money? Like in the bank for X number of months?
Doesn't matter, no, as long as they have the money.
I think
Doesn't
people
matter.
don't have the cash for that.
Yeah.
As long as they have the money.
What?
Yeah.
What?
As long as they have the money to
Mine
go to
do.
the table.
Mine
So-
do.
That's
All of them do. All of them have cash money. And then, you know what? And it's better. I mean, me personally, tell your buyer you wanted this, have it, you know, deposit to your account. I mean, that's just me. But if they don't care, great.
Yeah. What I would suggest is that, hey, let's put it in the account, and that, you know, let's get it out, not just, you know, here's my $10,000.
Account, Dr. Hannah's account?
borrow?
Sure, you can put the money in my account.
Now,
Yeah,
if they are business owners,
Yeah.
like most of them, like working in construction and things like that, and
Yeah.
they don't have W-2s or receipts,
Yeah. Yeah.
what
So,
are they gonna, how are they gonna qualify?
yes.
Based on their income tax.
Yes.
Is there any prepaid penalties if they pay off within
Nope.
a year, 2 years? of
Nope.
pay?
Nope.
You
Yeah.
can pick the term, right?
Yeah. So that's another thing. Term, 30 years if they want. They will also do 15 if they want. But 30-year, you know what that does? Decreases your mortgage payment. And so it increases the amount of money you can actually get, from them as far as the value of the home and what you can monthly pay. Good. Yes.
Let's say, there's a couple of clients that have money, have 70, 80,000 cash.
Yeah.
And they say they want to pay more,
Yeah.
Is there a minimum loan amount that this investor is willing, in other words, if they're gonna do business, some of them have a minimum,
Yeah.
we.
The only minimum we've talked about is the value of the home, $70,000, the value of the home. Every time we have said we have more money to put in, like these nurses have like 20,000 more, actually one nurse has $35,000 on a $200,000 home, and she maybe wants to give 30,000, that's fine. So they'll take more money.
So the sales price is 70, but
Yep, right, doesn't matter if
But
they
doesn't-
have 40 down, that's
and
fine.
the loan amount is 20,
Yep.
right?
I have a-
According to what they told me,
Okay.
the minimum is 70,000 value of the home, and you can put down as much money as you want, minimum 10% down. Yes.
But, I don't know if this is correct, is
Uh-huh.
there a variation in the sales price to the investor than to the buyer?
There is.
Okay, 'cause
Uh-huh.
we need to give them the price.
Right. And so what I typically would do is if they went and go find a home and it was 100,000, I would, just to be on the safe side, add 10% of that, so 110, that's what you'd want them to qualify, and I'd manage their expectations of that. The investor's gonna add 10% on whatever they buy it for. Okay, and so they might get this scenario where, wow, it's listed for 100, they got it for 90, and we're going to sell it for 100. But it might be, in all cases, it's going to be a different number. It has to be a different number because they're going to add 10% on to whatever the value that
They
they
buy
do.
it for less because
They
whatever
buy it,
negotiations,
yep.
it's also always a 10%.
Yeah, it's
And
always
you know
just
how
from
much they're
that
buying
price.
it for.
Right, and so they're not ripping you there. Everything's open book on this too.
Let's say I got a client is looking for $100,000 home,
Yep,
and they want to put $30,000 down.
Yep.
I know minimum 70,000. I mean,
They can.
Done
Done deal.
The investors still, I want to negotiate less money.
no, the investor said, hey, great, 100,000. That we were able to buy it for 90,000. We'll sell it to you for 100, and you got 30,000 for us. We'll take your 30,000 and give you a $70,000 mortgage.
No, we still have to negotiate to 90,000.
Well,
I mean,
that's
it
just
really doesn't matter because the buyer is putting the cash. I mean,
Right.
the minimum loan balance should be 70,000.
yeah.
You follow me?
Well, not really, because if they're looking for a $100,000 home and they find a $100,000 home, we don't know what the buyer's going to buy it at this point yet for. Okay, and so you tell them 110 just to be safe. But if they buy it for 90, they'll sell it to it for 100. It doesn't matter how much you have
10%
down.
above.
Whatever they
Above
buy it
whatever they buy it for. The
Yeah.
investor buys it for.
Yeah, 10% above.
And the investor typically should get a discount on it. And what we've experienced so far with the deals we've been doing is the investor typically gets a discount. Why? Because they're in 2 weeks, you get to close it and we're paying you cash. Get in and out like that. And so again, what we've seen is, in fact, new home builders are taking advantage of this. They have clients that don't have good credit, and that falls under here, but it's the same investor, higher end homes for lower. But new home builders for $150,000 home, the new home builder says, man, I'm trying to unload this house. And they say, okay, we'll buy it for 120. And so they buy it for 120, and then they just mark it up 10%. And now you're getting a house, a brand new home, for less than what it was originally worth. So when you start thinking about all the opportunities that Ultima is bringing to you and what Paul is bringing to you with these programs, it is amazing. You can have all the business you want with this, because I'm telling you, there's no other real estate company out there that's providing these different deals to get into every type of organization that you want, any type of income with low credit or with ITIN.
Yeah,
unreal.
It's I mean, I've done hard money
Yep.
in the past,
Uh-huh.
and yeah, this is a great program, you know, just
Yeah.
because you know I've done so many others, and you know it is.
Yeah.
I mean, the closing
Yeah.
costs, a flat fee, you know, because normally hard money you pay discounts up front, and then you know 16 to 18% for 1 year, and
Yeah.
well,
Yeah, and Tony would know, is the Vasquez team, that they do more ITINs than anybody at Ultima out of our 300 plus agents. So he would know. And yeah, this is good. Thank you. Yes. Uh-huh.
Does the property have to appraise for the higher price, or the second closing?
Yeah, no, the investor doesn't care, because the investor knows already that they've done this research on the syntax, the investor here, on this one. The investor looks at it and makes sure that, hey, you know, are the numbers right? If they're trying to sell, you know, $150,000 house for a $200,000 home, that they have comps, and, you know, they do all of that, so they'll know, have a good range on what that house is worth. Yeah. In fact, I don't know if they even do an appraisal. They don't do an appraisal. Their appraisal is them doing this. These guys, you know, they're geniuses with the numbers and whatever, and they know the business and how to do it. Jose? Still question, huh?
Yeah, so they buy it for 100,000. We put the offers for the first semester for 90,000,
Uh-huh.
and then we resell it for 110.
no,
No.
10% of 90.
No.
Okay.
That if it was at 100,000, they sold it for a 90. They bought it for 90. The investor, they're going to sell it for 100. Yeah, I just was doing a different example there. Yeah, to do it. Okay, everybody good on questions? So now we're going to get into, this is the specifics on, well, how does it all work, and how, if you take one and pass it on, please, that how does it work? And so this is Ultima's exclusive ITIN program. This investor is not working with anyone else. And okay. So we've done, if you will, all the legwork for you. Do we have another copy? Where? Okay. We need to run. Here, you got. Oh, okay. And I need a copy too. Okay. Yeah. If you got. Okay. Good.
You're not doing refinances, right? Just purchase.
Refinances, Paul?
Are you doing refinancing?
No.
People who already have
Oh,
homes
yeah.
that they bought with ITIN that they want to refinance because their interest rate right now is at 13%.
No.
You don't.
Right now, it's not up for what we're doing.
If you have that
Not
opportunity,
a lot of people that-
why don't you send that opportunity to me, or the whole opportunity, email that to me. And you guys know, like, you know, I'm at Dr. Hank at
I'm pretty sure if the numbers work out right.
gmresults.com, but
If he,
But-
in other words, if he
13%.
stays there, he's still, you know, for the next 10 years, he's gonna pay 60,000 more in interest.
Yeah.
And if, I'm pretty sure the
He might do it.
payoff plus 10% above that.
because what we did is we came to him with this ITIN opportunity through some other investors that we knew and some big time investors that we knew, and they said okay to ITIN. When we came up with, we had an agent with the nurses, and we have a dozen nurses earning over 100,000 back credit, that they said, well, heck, we'll do that too. And I suspect they will do that, because as long as it's the money, you know, there, that they might do it. So right now, we don't have that program, but we might, because you just sent me that information and we'll see. Huh?
I have a lot of clients.
Okay, make sure you send me an email on that, because I'd like to pursue that and see where we are with that. Okay, so there are 3 steps for you in order to make this happen. And the first step is most critical. It's to manage your buyer's expectations. don't waste your time or anybody else's time, their time, our investors' time with it, that they need to understand the following. The interest rate, it's usually 7%, but it could be 7 to 10% depending on what your credit is looking at. It must be owner occupied, okay? So they need to actually be living in there. There's no PMI, however, that's required, so that's a benefit, but they should know that. The down payment, a minimum of 10%. Now, the reason why we say minimum, that there might be some, how every transaction is weird, that just to manage your expectation, if you just tell them it's only 10%, and then for whatever reason that, something happens, they got to fix it over, who knows what might happen, that say, hey, typically it's going to be 10% of the contracted selling price, okay? A 30-year fixed mortgage, you could do a 15-year fixed rate term as well. 10% or more shall be added to the cash price investor can purchase home for. Now, you can say, usually it's just going to be 10% on whatever the investor buys it for, but you tell them 10% or more, okay? Because we don't want to, over $1,000 or whatever, lose the deal on it. And probably that's not going to happen, but again, manage your expectations. Homes are ranging from $70,000 to $120,000. If you have an ITIN holder that has more than $120,000, our investor will do it. Okay, under 70 that they're not going to probably do it. Investor purchases home and sells back to your buyer. They need to understand that. Available for both ITIN and less than creditworthy buyers. No title insurance, no origination fee, no appraisal, application fee of $350. So they need to understand, you pick out the home of your choice, that we'll take a look at it, we'll pre-qualify you, and then once everybody is all set with this is how much they can buy the house for, add the 10% on, once that's done, you're going to owe $350 for the application fee, okay, because they're going to run your credit, and again, not the standard credit, but they're going to run the credit. Have them understand there's closing costs of $1,557. 2 months of taxes will be due, and 14 months of homeowners insurance due at closing. And closing is going to be in 2 weeks. It's going to be quick here. This is like unbelievable, that we can do this in 2 weeks. Secure agreement of these terms with the buyer, then go to step 2. Okay? Any questions about step 1?
Yeah. Will
Yes.
they get they have to sign a promissory note, and what will they get?
Just the title.
Just like a regular mortgage.
Regular?
Yeah, it'll be a note, yeah.
A note,
Yeah.
nothing.
Note.
Deed
Deed
of
trust,
trust,
nothing.
deed of trust, yeah. Amortization.
Okay, good. Any other questions on step 1? Step 2, qualify the buyer using a MLS. I got an MSL. Then, and so, so if you haven't done this, it's real easy. Paul put me through it, and then I figured it out. So if I can figure it out, you guys can figure it out real easily, okay? So you go to MLS, and you hit the financial application, okay? Hit that tab. And then there's a drop down, and it said, I literally go step by step. This is how I needed to do it. And so Paul helped me step by step on how to do it. This is all you need to do. And you'll see, it's just right there. You just follow this. It takes 5 minutes. Hit Buyers tab. Hit Qualification-Con, which means conventional. Okay? Under Buyer's financial information, enter the buyer's gross monthly income. So I would recommend that instead of them just telling you, that you actually verify how much it is, and I'll show you the documents that they should have that you'll need anyways with them. But we've had a lot of people say, oh, I earn this much, and then when we really got down to it, they weren't earning that much. And a lot of people don't even know. But again, it's their gross monthly income. Mortgage debt to income ratio percent. Question? Okay. That the mortgage debt to income ratio, you enter 35. That's just what you enter, okay? That the total debt to income ratio, you enter 55. Okay? Total monthly long-term debt. So what are they paying monthly on long-term debt? What's long-term debt? What? Home, a auto that they're doing, a credit card they're doing, whatever that is, what is that monthly payment that they're making on all of that long term? That's one of the reasons why they love people that just declared bankruptcy, because this is zero, which increases the amount of money that they can actually borrow, okay?
So we should go target bankruptcy people.
You should. I'll tell you, you laugh, I got a real estate agent right now that is out, knows mortgage, bankruptcy attorneys, and calling on them and say, hey, what bankruptcy, what people do you know that are looking for a house? I got money for them. I got $100 million for them. Can you imagine your clout going to somebody and say, hey, I got $100 million here that I can buy homes, and then who do you want to do?
Okay.
So bankruptcy attorneys, if you know one, I'd contact them big time. Another type of attorney. So this training isn't just about you understanding the program. It's about you actually saying, oh my God, this is right under my nose. I got all kinds of business. A divorce attorney. Okay, remember I just got done telling you about these nurses got divorced. There's a dozen nurses that earn over $100,000 and they qualify for that higher income, lower credit one. And so think about, hey, do I know an attorney? Or if you got divorced, you know an attorney, right? Okay, under mortgage information, it says mortgage information, just the next line down, enter the following. Estimated loan amount, enter the dollar amount of the home range plus 10%. So I want a $100,000 home, just make it $110,000 to keep this easy and make sure that they got plenty of room in order to get this. Annual property taxes, enter 2.4% of the estimated home price, okay? So if it's $100,000, it would be $2,400. Loan period, enter 30, okay? So no matter, even if they want a 15, just put in a 30. Just keep it all uniform and standard. Annual interest rate, enter 8.5. Now it's really 7%, but again, we're doing cushion on all this to make sure that they really can qualify. And then once we see on how much they qualify, we got some wiggle room there to maybe buy a higher valued home than what it says. Hazard insurance, dollar amount, enter 1% of the estimated value of the home. So if it's $100,000, enter $1,000. LTV percent, enter 80. Okay, so all of you will enter 80 on it. And again, this just takes, then all you have to do is hit calculate. This only takes literally 5 minutes. And it'll show you the dollar amount in a second, the dollar amount the buyer is pre-qualified to purchase. Once you've pre-qualified your buyer, go find a home with them, okay? Because now you know, hey, they got some money, but again, I would recommend that you get their documentation there. Go find a home in this price range, and then you will send the address, and you'll actually text it. The investor's name at 316 Capital, who's the CEO, is LaDale Buggs. And so LaDale, you text him at 972-971-4592 or email him at ladale@316capital.com. You are going to be in direct contact with the investor, okay? And so that's how sweet this is, how direct it is, that you have direct contact with this investor, and you text them or email them the address. They'll take a look at it and they'll get back to you, again, in less than 24 hours. Usually it's a couple of hours. 2 to 4 hours is what we've been experiencing his time. LaDale will then verify the availability of the home. And so you check the availability of the home too. Make sure it's available, okay? We've already had agents tell him, oh, I want this house. And then he looks up the house and it's already taken, And it's like they already got a contract. So let's not waste our time, especially your $100 million investor's time. Let's make sure this is a good one for you to get that. So here's the information that I would suggest that you collect right away. When you manage these expectations, you say, are you interested? You say, great. Then here's what I need. I need 1 month of pay stub for each employed borrower. If you don't have that, then that's okay, but the more information you have, the better. That way it's similar to like a mortgage. 2 years tax returns with all schedules, okay? And schedules typically are added on there because those are like business owners that they require schedules for their write-offs. They're legal write-offs. 3 months bank statements. Get 3 months bank statements. Government issued photo ID or their ITIN form, and their ITIN form or their Social Security card, if that's applicable. And then last but not least, the main way you're going to get tripped up is these people really don't have the money that they say. If it's a $100,000 house, they need at least $10,000 plus, this, plus they need what, $14,000 or something, dollars that you make sure, because otherwise you're just going to be wasting your time. And we've had 3 deals already where people were wasting their time that they promised, and with Lorena, that they promised, yeah, I got all this and I'll show you all the docs, but I really got all this money and I make this much money. And she went and she just wasted her time with 3 people that did not do it. So I would suggest you get on 2E is the most critical, that when you manage your expectations, get 2E. When you get 2E, all those documents there, then you're home free. Then you'll actually be able to do this. Any questions about step 2? Easy peasy, huh? Easy. Yep.
If they don't have the pay stubs.
Yeah, they don't have, they don't have like pay stubs or whatever, that you get as much information as you can. The bank
Go to
statement,
their employer and get the copies.
yeah, they could get,
They're contractors.
yeah, if they're contractors that, again, that the lender will probably, the investor will probably take, the bank statement and say, hey, that's good, but they're going to look at some other stuff then. They're going to see, hey, how long have you been paying and how much have you been paying on rent or your lease or whatever. If they're missing all kinds of stuff, they're not going to get it, because the investor has to be secure that these people at least are paying their bills and are making some regular, income in order to pay for the home that they want. This is the American dream come home. I'm telling you, there are at least 1,000 families that are sitting out there right now that are all under your noses ready to buy.
Also, when you said surrender the gross monthly income,
Yes.
normally their taxes are not reflecting their actual monthly gross.
Right.
What is the amount that we need to go by the taxes?
Well, usually the pay stub will say the gross amount, and that's what you use, because they want the gross monthly, and what you're talking about is net. Gross minus taxes equals my net, or insurance or whatever else they have equals net. Yeah, then we're back to the bank statement and then the income tax. And so this investor is willing to look at those. That's why I like the example of this nurse. They were paying $2,300 a month, on rent, and they want to buy a $400,000 house. Well, you can do that, that's okay. It's not too bad that we understand, on how you do it. So it's a case-by-case basis, which is way our industry is, right? Everything is case by case. But know that, so you feel fairly confident on that. So then we go, and I only have a couple more minutes here, but we go to step 3, and that's where you actually have your buyer apply for the owner finance loan by completing the following to Open Door Mortgage. So if you want to get a paper copy of the application, go to opendoormortgage.net or e-fax them at that number, and they'll send you one. Call Carol Johnson with any questions. Now, Carol Johnson, she's at Open Door Mortgage. She's the one that's running the place. You have direct access to her where you can call and, hey, I can't get the application or whatever, but here's how to get the application. Receive and sign your initial disclosures via DocMagic or DocuSign by email. Uniform residential loan application, good faith estimate, the fee worksheet, truth in lending, loan servicing, intent to proceed. Basically, all the standard documents that you would use that you're going to have here. Get them all signed. Provide the documentation from step 2E to Carol at the same time with the application. All of that information. They then need their application fee of $350, and Open Door Mortgage will pull their credit, process the loan. Down payment is made, and you close in 2 weeks. Okay? So 3 steps. Doesn't take very much time at all, as long as you follow these steps, that you'll be able to help a lot of people and make a lot of money. And again, you're going to make 4% on this. So any questions on our ITIN program?
I have a comment.
Yes, sir.
On the second closing, we need to make sure that we use the intermediary notice because we're representing the buyer and the seller. And that's also gonna require the buyer-tenant representation agreement to be signed. I'm assuming that we have a general written agreement with the investor, like a representation agreement.
Yes, we have an agreement, Ultima has an agreement.
Okay, so since we're gonna represent both parties on the second closing, make sure we do the intermediary notice form and the buyer representation agreement. They have to go hand in hand on this type of intermediary.
Okay,
Thank you,
good.
boss.
Yep, very good, good. But hopefully this has helped you to understand. If you have any questions, get with Paul or I. Again, you have direct access now to our investor that we're opening up. Hopefully you understand that this is a tremendous opportunity. And then all of the different programs that we have, so companies, schools, and churches can get you into virtually any place that you have not been able to get into before. You now have a story to tell them. That higher end income, lower end credit, that there are people out there that haven't qualified. You have buyers out there that haven't qualified for a home, that they can maybe qualify under that, which is the same similar program as the ITIN. And there's plenty of ITIN people that you know out there that would love to do this. This is such a service to that Paul started this whole thing under the humanitarian effort of I want my ITIN holders to get a home. That's where we started this from. And so now it also will be able to help you in order to make more money and help these people. We have a fourth program that comes in next week, but we have a leads program, and you have to pre-qualify for it, but we'll have training on that. But know that we do have some broker leads available. You have to pre-qualify, and there's some exceptions, exclusions, some things that you need to do, but another way to make about $18,000 more per year. So if you're interested in that, that training is going to be, God bless you, is going to be next Tuesday at 12:30. Leads training. And so with that, any other questions or comments before we leave? All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Good session.